Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Workers' Hammer podcast. This time we're going to talk about the latest developments with your party, or as we said in our leaflet, what are the politics behind the shit show that made the entire thing fall apart? I'm here with Vincent,
Hello.
and we are going to just delve into the politics behind it.
Yeah.
So,
What
before we,
happened?
what
Just maybe you can
happened?
remind our viewers if not everybody
So,
knows the ins and out.
many of you will have signed up. Zara Sultana launched an email, a sign up where you could pay your money, and apparently it was unauthorized. The Jeremy Corbyn side of your party went nuts and said this is unauthorized. There was allegations of on Zara Sultana's side of it's a boys' club, male chauvinism, etc., etc. And on the other side, there was allegations of, kind of financial
Fraud, more or
mismanagement,
less. Yeah.
fraud, heavily hinted at, lawsuit and countersuit and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Now, at the moment, Zara Sultana has pulled back from the brink and seemed to be offering an olive branch to the Corbyn faction, saying that she wants this to succeed and so on. But the politics behind it needs to be examined because the rift is not healed and you can't wish it away either. So
Yeah.
maybe you want to talk about what exactly is behind
So
it.
the party isn't even founded and it's already splitting. And even if they do come to some sort of agreement, it's probably likely that this rift will continue between Zara Sultana's team on one side and Corbyn and his independent MPs who just seem to be following him on the other. And yeah, I think for many people were very angry, very frustrated, quite, rightly so. And this is kind of outrageous. It's this split over organizational control and money with no political substance at all.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, they look at this and they see only like two egos fighting each other, for their own prestige, their own power position. And there's certainly a lot of truth into this, but I think it's important to take a step back and look a little more because there's more behind the split than simply egos.
And I think it's important to say that one of the things we're concerned about is that people who desperately feel the need for an alternative to Starmer and a way to fight the far right don't fall into despair because of the way things are turning out in this party. This party looks fairly disastrous, but what we're trying to do, the point is to learn political lessons and to look for a way forward. So that's, that's our purpose.
Because if you have a political understanding of why there's this rift, I think things look differently and you can actually make sense of what's going on. So let's try to do this a little bit. So it's not just about egos. That's the thing. It certainly plays out because if you look at on the other side, on the right wing, look at the far right or the right, they're all big egos, full of faction. They all hate each other. If you know a little bit the sort of right wing nebula, they all have a bunch of faction. Yeah, they're growing. Their movement is building. Yeah. So it's not, you cannot only explain this with egos. And actually, I think you have to look at the broader political context in Britain and the Western world. What we're seeing is a massive sea change. You have really the breakdown of what we call the liberal order, essentially. For like 30 years, liberalism and liberal politics really dominated the political terrain, essentially. And now the status quo is really breaking down, and the force really breaking it down is the right wing. It's really these right wing forces seeking to push a break with liberalism towards a more authoritarian, right wing status quo, essentially. And the reason Corbyn and Sultana really can't get along is not just only because of their ego, but it's because they do not have a set of politics or program that can meet this sea change, that can meet really this changing period.
Yes, in fact, I think the left is very much in denial about just how bad the situation is for the working class and for the left in Britain.
Yeah.
So after the Tommy Robinson demonstration, for example, where the anti-racist demonstration was it was a defeat for the left and for the working class. There was very little recognition of that. There was an attempt to sugarcoat it. And in general, the left remains very divided and oblivious to the whole split between the left and the working class.
Yeah.
Um,
That workers are
so
moving to the right,
that workers
away
are
from the left.
exactly, and that the left has failed to present itself as an anti-establishment force.
Yes.
So that's what's
So what you
behind it.
have in the context, you have really an insurgent right wing, which can sort of unite a growing number of the population behind destroying the liberal status quo. So despite all their rivaling faction, they have this sort of rallying point, which is to destroy everything that's liberal, woke, etc., attack the left and attack all these things. And meanwhile, on the left, what we have is not a rise of a force which meets this new era, which also attacked liberalism but from a working class point of view, offering working class answers to the status quo. But it's really a sort of hysteria behind a collapsing liberal center. And what I mean by that, you can just see the trajectory of this party. Like Corbyn and Sultana did not decide to launch this party having understood what this particular epoch requires, having drawn a lesson from the last decades and really having a lot of foresight about what was coming. They really formed this party out of pressure they could not ignore anymore. So they drag Corbyn for years dragged his feet, still is dragging his feet, and Zara Sultana really could see that there was nowhere for her in the Labour Party, so sort of quit. And it's really the pressure of doing something against Farage, doing something against the genocide in Palestine, and really filling this vacuum to the left of Labour that sort of is pushing them to do this. But there's not a new theory, a new set of political ideas that are different from what the left has done before, right?
Yes.
But I think
Mm-hmm.
what you get with Corbyn and Sultana is that they are trying to build a party based on really vague sort of the leftovers of left liberalism, in an era where liberalism is dying and is ultra polarized. So you have Corbyn on one side. What does he say politically? He makes grand declaration for peace, for love,
Peace and
for
justice.
compassion for everyone. But
Yeah.
peace and justice. Um, really sounding hollow. We don't really, it doesn't address any sort of polarization. And meanwhile, Zara Sultana, not that she has qualitative different politics, but she really plays, I think, the identity politics and liberal cards. So she's right sometimes on certain issue like anti-Zionism, but on other
Yes.
issue like the trans question, it's
Yes.
drawing hard organizational lines on ideas that people have in their own head rather than trying to unite oppressed people on class interest against the ruling class. That was the problem on the trans question. It was really not that we disagree with her that the new party needs to fight for trans rights. We do agree with her, but what we disagree is that the way you fight for this matters. While the movement for trans rights is completely on the back foot, while there is a sizable portion of the population who's at best indifferent to the trans people, at worst hostile, you can't just say, no, anybody that doesn't have socially progressive values, that is really liberal values, has to be kicked out of this party. Well, this is really a line that's not useful to draw or neither clear. It's all about who feels good about the oppressed. We had written in a previous statement that under the line she's drawing, somebody that's pro-NATO, pro-AU, but who has a good line on the trans question would be admitted into this party. But a working class person or a Muslim, for example, that's a little more conservative, but who really is pro-Palestine, anti-imperialist, would be excluded. So these sorts of divisions are absolutely destructive and frankly bourgeois in a sense. They serve the ruling class.
Yes. And I do want to add that there was not a lot of peace and justice coming from the Corbyn side towards Zara Sultana. Some of the bitterness that was shown in opposition to one another. Don't you wish that Corbyn had shown that against the Blairites back in the day, or against Starmer today?
Yeah.
All this peace and justice covers a certain type of politics.
Ali McCann, the previous candidate of the Workers' Party in Stratford, tweeted,
Yes.
I think, very well that Sultana and Corbyn are fighting each other as hard as they've never fought Starmer, for example. And I thought that was absolutely true.
Halima is absolutely
all of a sudden,
right.
Corbyn has a backbone, and that's what he does with it. Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the debate about the new party, what it should do, and so on, focuses on the need for democracy. And in opposition to the fallout when Zara Sultana launched the membership thing last week was focused on let's get rid of the MPs, let's have more democracy, let's involve the membership as a whole. And the understanding was that if only we change the personalities at the top, change the organizational structure, somehow these problems will resolve themselves.
There's even a letter, a petition circulating right now, which has a few thousand people signed on, which is sort of like, let's take the power away from Sultana and Corbyn and give it to the grassroots, and we're going to have this sort of new committee.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, just to.
So I think it's important to explain why this will not solve the problem. Of course, you want democracy within the party. And of course, as is proven, there's a lot of bureaucratic maneuvering going on behind the scenes. And I don't just mean coming from Carrie Murphy, although her name appears, a lot. But there isn't an organizational solution to what is fundamentally a political problem.
It's a political problem.
And I think people to keep focusing on that question will only contribute to despair, because it won't, it doesn't point a way forward.
Yeah. The fundamental issue really is that neither Corbyn nor Sultana has a clue about, how to unite Muslim and pro-trans people. How to do the question of Zionism. Is the party going to be Zionist or anti-Zionist? What about Corbyn in this? What about the trade union bureaucrats who are still beholden to labor? What is our approach to these people? What about how to fight Farage exactly? Do you really just beat with a stick everyone that's socially conservative, or do you try to win them over actually? How? It's all these burning questions, which maybe didn't matter so much like 10 years ago during the first Corbyn, but now today in the era where there's an insurgent right wing, liberalism is really on its deathbed. These are questions that a new left party is confronted with, and it's really this incapacity to really try to answer and take them on that is literally paralyzing the new party. And because there are no debates about how to answer these questions, Corbyn and Sultana, that's not what they're debating. That's not what they're thinking about even. And even among the membership of the party, that's not really what people want to debate. Like, how come the left is so small? What have we been doing wrong? And what should we do differently? Everything comes out about on organizational lines. Money, power, who controls what. And that's why it's so destructive,
Yes. Okay. So the question is, in the face of all this chaos, what to do? What should people do? And I think it's important to say the local groups that have been set up, they should continue to meet.
Yeah, definitely.
People should not disband and not fall into despair, but we'll try to give some guidance for what people should actually focus on.
I mean, this is a bad split. A lot of people on the left, sometimes they support Zara Sultana against Corbyn. Like, look, there isn't a side or the other which is fighting for a particular set of politics against the other. As far as I know, Zara Sultana and Corbyn, they have disagreements here or there, but they don't share a fundamentally different program, and anyway, this wasn't a split based on politics,
No.
If Zara had said, a split over Zionism versus anti-Zionism, we might have had a different discussion, but that's not what the split is about.
That's
true. It's about money and who controls what, and there's no basis for socialists to take one side or the other, really. So I think continue to organize the local meetings. Don't take a side with the faction, but then, okay, what do you do in these local meetings? And I think, as a starter, even before walking into continuing organizing these local meetings, I think the first thing that the left must do is to stop really sugarcoating reality. There's a whole trend, and it's never ending on the left, to present things as if, it wasn't as bad as it is. A good example of this for me is after the last Saturday, the Tommy Robinson demonstration. Our side was totally tiny. Tommy Robinson's demo was huge. And everybody sort of agreed after that, okay, this has to be a wake up call, because this was really not good. But in the following days after, what I've noticed on the left is more and more people saying, well, it was, they were pretty big, we're pretty small, but it's only like a one-time thing. They were particularly well organized, we weren't. And anyway, we have like big Palestine demos all the time. There's 6 million people in the trade union, so that's way more than Tommy Robinson. So all these sorts of comments after the fact, which all pointed to sort of say this was a fluke. This was a one-time thing. It
Yes.
doesn't really reflect the balance of society.
Yeah, and I think also you hear it mentioned, "Oh, but, 800,000 people signed up for your party."
Yes, that
That's,
too.
and they try to counterpose that to Tommy Robinson's demonstration. But this is really missing the point. It's not just numbers that the left can mobilize. It really is a question of um, trying to get the forces together who have an objective interest in opposing British imperialism. So I think you really need to start from there. Politics is not decided by numbers on a piece of paper or on having signed up for your party.
Yeah.
Really, people have to be mobilized around an understanding of what's in their interest and motivated, that it really is in their interest to
Mm.
fight for this.
It's a clash of living forces. That's what
Yes.
politics and political conflicts are,
Yeah.
living forces.
Yeah.
And the truth is that on September 13th in London, the right wing, Tommy Robinson and everything have demonstrated quite powerfully that they have the wind in their sail.
Yes.
They have a lot of working class people, a lot of workers are
Yeah.
turning to them. They can muster a sizable, huge force,
Yes.
and that the left couldn't really.
And not only that the left couldn't mobilize them on that day, but a lot of the politics that the left pushes actually repels the working class. It drives them
yes,
away. A lot of this liberal identity politics and so on, seems to just echo what's coming from the City of London, which is that if you're white, working class from a formerly industrial area, you're worthless.
mm,
You are, not worth
exactly.
bothering about. So,
And it's kind of grotesque also to counterpose uh, 6 million people in the trade unions to Tommy Robinson's demo, because anybody that does a bit of work in the trade union will realize very quickly that there's a lot of people in the trade unions who are looking to reform, who are looking to Tommy Robinson and these people. The 6 million, they don't look to Labour and Keir Starmer. Like, just on the picket lines, the Birmingham binge strike, you often meet workers who like Farage, who
they
want to
like
vote
Farage.
reform.
They want to vote for Farage. And, the other thing that is undeniable in the trade unions is that members are leaving the trade unions in droves
Yeah, that
because the
too.
trade unions won't fight on the most basic questions for people. They won't even,
Yeah.
they won't even fight their grievances properly.
Yeah. The leadership. Yeah, the
The
leaders. Yeah.
leadership of these unions is totally tied in to Starmer. They just won't rock the boat.
Yeah.
So it's not just a matter. So it's useless citing the numbers of members in the trade unions or expecting those same trade union leaders who put Starmer into number 10 to mobilize against the rise of the far right. This
Yeah.
is not happening.
Yeah. So why are we saying all of this? It's important because all these arguments as to, oh, we have big Palestine demo, oh,
Yes.
800,000 people, your party, oh,
Yes.
no, no, no. They're
Yes.
all arguments to avoid saying what is, and what is it? What's going on in Britain? The right is rising. They are the one really big force opposing the status quo and the Labour Party government. The trade unions are weak and hollowed out, and the
Yes.
left is in a dire situation. And it's important to face this reality. We don't say that to be like, to be demoralized or
Yeah.
whatever, but like anybody that doesn't recognize this reality is in fact blocking the necessary reorientation that's urgently needed in the left,
Yeah.
because when you say, oh, it wasn't that bad, blah, blah, then you don't need to re-question what have we been doing so far. You can just continue on liberal politics, sort of being oblivious about its disastrous impact. So it's really important to move away from this and look at the situation very soberly. Things are not good
Yes.
for the left, and it's very necessary to go forward, I think, for in the left.
Yes, I think it's important to recognize that the left needs to change course, and that means having some hard
Yeah.
discussions.
And that leads, I think, to the second point that the left needs to do is to draw some political lessons from
Yeah.
the past few years. We have to really stop putting our heads in the sand. Obviously, it goes from the first point, but like, why is the left so small? Why is the right really having the win in its sail? It's not just because social media and Elon Musk's money.
Yeah.
Like there are other reasons, and you've mentioned it. The left is pushing. A lot of left wing are pushing workers into the arms of the right
Yes.
because of liberal politics, identity politics.
Yes.
The merging of the socialist movement with liberalism and identity politics has really produced for years a disastrous situation, which is really now starting to being brought to the fore, like concretely in our face. It drives people away from the socialist movement, and it ties the left to the ruling class. Honestly,
Yes.
for me, it still shocks me the 13th September demo where you have um, on the one side, on Tommy Robinson's side, what did he say in his speech? Tommy Robinson, he said, "This is the beginning of a revolution against the entire establishment." He presented it as a real like popular uprising. And
Yes.
then on the anti-racist side, you have John McDonnell, Diane Abbott, people who are Labor Party members with the Labor Party in government talking about racism in abstractly, and you have trade union leaders who fund the Labor Party.
And
So,
every one of whom supported Starmer, put
yes,
Starmer into
into
office.
office. And so for workers, it's like, which side do you think is anti-establishment, is against the powers?
Yes.
Like, hello, like, so the drawing the political lesson is really what we mean a break with liberalism, with liberal politics in the left.
Yeah.
And this is where I think your point, just quickly, is your point is key. And what we're seeing is not, dumb the trans issue, dumb the anti-racism, dumb, not at all. Actually, it's key. If we want to build a working class alternative, it must defend Muslims, it must defend trans people, it must defend immigrants. But there's a way to defend these groups in a liberal way, through moralism and sort of hysteria. And there's also a working class or class struggle way.
Yes.
That's what needs to be pursued on the left. And we need to have these debates on the left on how to pursue this, liberal or class struggle.
Yeah, it needs to be, it doesn't mean abandoning minorities. It just means that it needs to be done differently. And if your starting point is to unite all the minorities on the basis of a pro-working class program in opposition to the common enemy, which is British imperialism, then you can view the question differently. But as long as we continue to view it in the framework that it's been until now, the struggle cannot go forward.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then the third thing we say is to fight for political clarity. So you
yes.
mentioned we need to continue organizing these your party meeting, continue attending them. It's important.
Yes.
But I think what hasn't happened in those meetings, like everybody goes to these meetings and it's like the mood is like, oh, let's focus on what unites us and let's avoid like conflicts and all the difficult questions. Let's sort of sweep them under the rug. Or else let's talk about how the party should be organized, organizational measure, democracy, and sort of avoiding, well, what should it stand for?
Yes, that's right. And actually, I think it needs to be said also, it matters for all of the left, every left group, that this project doesn't go down in flames, doesn't go down as a disaster. There are groups who want to stand aside and say, we have nothing to do with this, it's reformist and so on. There are other groups who want, to work within it. But look, if it's a disaster, if it goes down in flames, it's a disaster for all the left, for every single group, regardless of what your tactics towards it were.
Yeah.
So that's another wake-up call.
Yeah. And I think this thing of fighting for political clarity is really to turn these meetings into, from like sort of, boring or tepid, just broad discussion, which don't decide anything precisely, turn them into big forums for actually debating the key and burning questions on the left.
Yes.
The trans question we talked about, the issue of Zionism.
Yes.
Like, and the worst is that there are many leftists and socialists, whether they are in other organized groups or not, who know that the party has to be anti-Zionist, the party has to be anti-NATO, the party shouldn't ally itself with the Greens. There are a number of socialist people who don't want that, but for some reason, many socialists, they don't want to say this in your party meetings because it might frustrate some other people.
Because it would frighten the liberals.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the question. Well, but we can't continue functioning like that. We have to put the hard question out there.
Yes.
Have a debate, have a fight about what this party should be, and turn these meetings, where frankly sometimes just a bit of a kitchen sink of everything, into actual debates over the big questions that are holding back the left.
Yes. And just to echo a point that we made in our leaflet, the last thing the working class needs is the Green Party and the Greens.
Yes.
So
if we're doing this party, is precisely because we don't want to join the Greens. Like, that's the whole point, no?
Yes.
Or else, join the Green then and don't bother, honestly.
Or you had a previous suggestion, which I liked, that all the liberals, middle class elements who were maybe initially attracted to Corbyn and Sultana, they should just go to the Greens.
Yeah, go to the
and,
Greens, whatever.
You know, make this more of a working class.
Yeah, that's what I
have more of a
would
working
like.
class
Needs to be
orientation.
a
That's
working
good.
class socialist
So
party,
you
and the
love,
Greens.
you know, Zach Polanski. Okay.
Fine, fair
Um,
enough. So this is our lessons overall. Obviously, we haven't developed the whole thing on the trans question, immigration, imperialism. We have other videos, and we'll do more.
We will.
But for me, these are the three big things: like stop sugarcoating reality, draw some political lessons, and fight for political clarity.
Yes.
So what should this party? Because at the end of the day, that's one thing also that parties are built on political programs, on ideas.
Yeah.
And ideas, it's not just abstract idea in general, social justice or whatever,
Yes.
but a program is something that responds to a current political context.
Yes.
And that's really what a lot of people on the left don't understand or don't even realize that we must think about. The liberal order is fracturing, is dying.
Yes.
The right is growing. The left cannot answer this challenge with what we did in 2015 or 2005 or 1995, right? Like, it's not the same period anymore.
Yeah, let's get back to what the task of socialists is supposed to be. You're supposed to mobilize in defense of the oppressed on the basis of a pro-working class program in opposition to the bourgeoisie, in opposition to British imperialism. And that means in opposition to liberalism. Claim for socialism, socialists are the people who are supposed to fight for the oppressed, not the liberals. So this is what we mean by the need to break with liberalism. So have some discussions on the hard questions and come out in opposition to the establishment.
Yeah. And inevitably will mean to frustrate people. It's going to take a real struggle to forge this party. And some people are going to be pissed off by it because some people want to stay in middle class, respectable politics. Well, that's not going to work. You're not going to win workers with that. So we need to have a bit of a clash of ideas.
Yes. If there was some easy solution, it would have happened already. But it's going to take, hard struggle and effort.
And for God's sake, let's talk about those politics. I'm so sick of hearing the if we do this committee rather than this committee and this method rather than this method, then it's all going to solve. No, the problem is that this party so far is totally empty politically. That's why.
Yes.
Anyway,
so
on this note, read the what we were discussing was largely based on a leaflet called "The Politics Behind the Politics Behind the Shit Show." It's going to be in the description. Our newspaper workers hammer will be in the description. Subscribe to our account not to miss one single video.
Yes.
And share it as well if you like what you hear. And follow us on our social. Everything is in the description.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.